NecronomiCon Providence Road Trip Journal, episode number 3, coming to you this time from a far better than average Quality Inn in southwestern Pennsylvania. And welcome back to the Road Trip Journal. I am Nicole Cushing, and this is my last day on the road before arriving home. I have a 7-hour trip today. On the road back to southern Indiana, and I'm looking forward to being back home. I've enjoyed my travels, but there's nothing quite like home and my husband and my cat and my own bed, etc. So anyway, what I really wanted to talk about today was the NecronomiCon convention. First, let me talk about the cool stuff that happened. I saw my book, my new novel, A Sick Gray Laugh, there on sale at the Lovecraft Arts and Sciences store on Waybosset Street in the arcade in Providence. And the copies that were there sold out, which was great. I signed a lot of copies and met with readers and appeared on panels and just generally did a lot of good connecting with people, saw people I hadn't seen in a long time, etc. So that was really cool. But yeah, and the novel comes out tomorrow officially for everyone else. This was just a kind of freak thing where we were able to get some copies to Necronomicon in time for the convention. But yeah, officially it's released tomorrow. So I'm excited about that. I'm stoked about that. But what I really wanted to talk about is the goodies I brought back. My own little stash of books that I brought back from the convention. And so without any further ado, let me see. First thing I want to share is this very sweet Clark Ashton Smith t-shirt. I have like this idea that I might also be able to make it into like a little puppet or something, like, hey Clark, how are you doing? Oh, I'm doing fine. I'm not very good at it, but yeah. But yeah, the very cool t-shirt. I've kind of hopped aboard the Clark Ashton Smith bandwagon after he's being more and more rediscovered in the wake of a very cool documentary called The Emperor of Dreams. And so got the t-shirt, and I don't just have the t-shirt. I have this really cool volume of his of his poetry, the poetry of the fantastic, and published by Hippocampus Press in a very affordable edition. This was only $15, and this is a first edition, which includes some of Clark Ashton Smith's own artwork on glossy paper here, and so it's just really cool. And I'm getting more and more into poetry, more and more into Clark Ashton Smith, just kind of sampling some more of his work and enjoying it. And so, yeah, there we go. Clark Ashton Smith, poetry. And of course, I love the title, being a bit of a pessimist, as some of you know. It's just cool. What's not to like? And this was the last copy on the Hippocampus Press table. And so I snagged it. And it was originally published in 2002. And Derek Hussey, the publisher of Hippocampus Press, said that there would be a new edition coming out soon, but that it might not have the illustrations inside. I guess, if I understood him correctly, there would not be the glossy illustrations inside. So I feel like I have something kind of special there. Anyway, let's move on. The other thing I liked is this is the convention Memento book. lots of conventions have convention memento books, but I appreciated that this one kind of put in the effort to mimic a vintage issue of Weird Tales magazine, right down to the goofy advertisements that you would find in a vintage copy of Weird Tales magazine. That was fun. And of course, there's lots of art, lots of interviews, pieces of fiction, pieces of poetry, etc. There's some Harry O. Morris art in there that's pretty interesting. And Harry O. Morris is doing the interior illustrations, or he actually has done at this point the interior illustrations for my novella coming out from Grimscribe Press called The Half Freaks. So for the hardcover edition, it's going to be illustrated. And so I'm just pretty cool. I mean, I am pretty cool, but I am pretty excited about that. It's early in the morning, folks. As I'm recording this, it's 6:30. So forgive me for kind of slipping every now and then with the wrong word. Anyway, but the final thing that I have here is a couple of things that were being sold at the NecronomiCon press table at the convention. This is a vintage, I hate to say vintage because this came out in 1991, the same year I graduated high school. But a vintage copy of this newsletter called Necrophile, which is an interesting title. I think you'll agree. They clarify that right underneath of it with the qualifier, the review of horror fiction, lest there be any confusion. But anyway, this struck me as interesting for a couple of reasons. I saw that there was a column by Thomas Ligotti. And so this is a column called essay he wrote, Platitudes and Pontifications for the Appreciation of Weird Fiction by Thomas Ligotti. And I love, of course, the self-deprecating title there. Sometimes I think that he's a little bit too self-deprecating. But yeah, I mean, I don't know whether this has been reprinted anywhere or not. Part of me hopes that it isn't, so that I have something extra unique and special. Probably it has, because most of his stuff has been reprinted, I would imagine. But in case it hasn't been, I have something very, very unique. And so I'm going to treasure it. And there was also this issue of Necrophile, which has a cover essay called The Ligotti Phenomenon. And I like it because it's a vintage sort of view of Ligotti, just a few years into his career, I guess I would say, or certainly early in his career. And I'm interested in the history of our field. And this is now almost 30 years old. So I'm just interested in the the early reception of his work and how that all came about. And I'm just interested in the history of small press horror, something that's not really addressed probably enough. But anyway, so that is a far too long video. I'm looking at the timer here, and I've already crossed the threshold into 9 minutes. So lest I continue into 10, I will pause here and just wish you all a super day. And thank you for sharing my voyage to NecronomiCon Providence 2019 and back. Later, y'all.